my estimation, 357 Warhammer games as of recording, with a new title seemingly releasing every couple of months, and while not exactly indie, are games which I think are pretty awesome. I always loved the lore and world of the Warhammer universes, but never got deep into it due to the prohibitively high cost of the miniatures, not to mention the library of books, but the video games are a great way of getting a taste of this, so here are 10 of my favourites that I think you should play. Let's begin with Warhammer Chaos Bane, one that uses the fantasy slant and is pretty much a Diablo-style action RPG, although this is before the Age of Sigmar reboot of the world. We are fighting against the forces of Chaos, which will be a recurring theme, with 5+1 DLC characters to play as and plenty of demons to slay. I do like how they included a DLC expansion that involves the Tomb Kings and an act set in the desert much like Diablo 2 Act 2, but there are definitely rough edges in this game. It's not amazing, but will do for action RPG fans. One of the more unique entries in this universe is that of Blood Bowl, based on a board game of the same name which was one of their earliest offerings, combining Warhammer fantasy with American football. You will see a trend in this video in that the sophomore entries tend to be the best, with Blood Bowl 2 being my pick as compared to Blood Bowl 1. Most interestingly, true to its tabletop roots, this is a turn-based strategy game with plenty of violence, where losses on the field are permanent, which you need to manage as you battle your way to the top, getting extra points for being unique.
In the grim darkness of the far future, there is only war. These are the closing days of the 41st millennium. The 13th Black Crusade tears through the Aegis Ocularis, the space surrounding the dreaded Eye of Terror. Worlds burn as Chaos makes a push for Holy Terror, the ashes of Cadia flowing in its wake as the combined might of the Imperium desperately tries to stem the tide. The ever-opportunistic forces of the galaxy, Eldari, Drukhari, Orcs, and worse besides, make their own plays for glory, dominance, and survival.
As mentioned, sequels tend to do better, with Battlefleet Gothic Armada 2 being the title of interest here. Our first 40k title on the list, we are put in charge of an armada of ships as we explore the grim darkness of a region of space known as the Eye of Terror. This is also based on a tabletop board game of the same name, and does have grand strategy elements as you seek to control the entire sector, with the story campaign focusing on the Tyranids, Necrons, and the Imperium of Men. But there are 12 factions, including fan favourite Space Marines, Chaos, Orcs, and more. Most interestingly, battles are in real time and mirror naval combat in real life, where you need to maneuver your ship to launch broadside attacks on your enemies. Only instead of cannonballs, how about lasers instead? It is a visually impressive title as well, with some great strategic elements, making it one of interest.
Rages across the galaxy. Civilizations crushed. Worlds devoured whole.
Firing now.
Only one force can halt the annihilation of mankind. The Space Marine.
One of the older titles on the list is Warhammer 40k Space Marine, a game from 2011 that still holds up surprisingly well. It is a third-person action game that is basically Space Marine power fantasy, where you play as a member of the Ultramarine chapter and go to town on a legion of green skins. There is a sequel in the works announced in December last year, which got many people excited, so if you have not played the original, it's worth going back to.
There will be no mercy. There will be no retreat. There is only war.
I am Gabriel Angelos, captain of the Blood Ravens. My chapter is in ruins. The sector is at war. Its worlds under siege. Chaos spreads, consumes us all. Here, we will make our final stand.
It might be blasphemy to some that Warhammer 40k Dawn of War 2 is ranked here, but this series is one of the most beloved in the real-time strategy space, but my tastes align more with the top 5 as you shall see. That is not to discount how awesome this game is, where as is the trend, the original broke ground and showed how the concept could work, the sequel improved upon it, and the third entry messed it up. There was an interesting change from Dawn of War 1 to 2 in the removal of base building elements, where this resembles more of Company of Heroes rather than Command and Conquer, but the sheer variety of factions after the two expansions, Chaos, Rising and Retribution, makes this such a joy.
Commander, prepare to engage. On the Imperium! Enemy reinforcements.
In death they fall, their duties fulfilled. And now, as bound by oath, another must rise.
We are at your service, Commander.
Let's kick off the top 5 with Warhammer 40k Chaos Gate Demon Hunters, the newest entry on the list that is essentially XCOM, but is a very well made one of these with fan favourite Space Marines. It is a tale as old as time, with Space Marines versus Chaos, where you are the commander of the Grey Knights, having to stop a corruption known as the Bloom, which can destroy entire planets. All the XCOM bits are here, with a cover system, Overwatch, meta progression and base building, but does have some improvements like removing percentage chance to hit, and given that it has been 6 years since the release of XCOM 2, it's a welcomed return to this genre. Warhammer 40k Mechanicus is a turn-based tactical RPG where you play as the Adeptus Mechanicus, a subset of the Imperium of Mankind, which are also known as the Cult of the Machine, being tech priests that worship the machine god or the Omnisire, preferring the reliability of steel over weak, flashy organic bits. As a result, your characters in this XCOM-like entry can be upgraded in interesting ways, with the main foe in this game being the undead robot Necrons, with fun tactical combat as well, making this a must-play.
In Warhammer, no one's going to treat you like a dangerous psychopath when you demand they join your crusade against the rat hordes. Or the lizard men. Or the orcs. Did I mention the cannons? Look at them, fire them. That one's controlled by a dwarf. Amazing.
I should totally penalize Total War Warhammer, since Total Warhammer was right there, but jokes aside, this Warhammer fantasy take on the Total War series is excellent and not to be missed. Again, the second entry is a title that I recommend, and while they did release 3 games in 2016, 2017 and 2022, it does feel like it could have been one title, but probably due to monetary reasons, they decided to split it this way. It follows a long history of Total War games from Shogun, Medieval, Rome, Napoleon, Attila, Three Kingdoms and so on, with it having a Warhammer skin, but the large-scale real-time battles are always impressive to watch, with a great strategy layer on top of that as well.
That's Total War.
I like developer Newcore Games, which have made some excellent games, including The Incredible Adventures of Van Helsing, which is a Diablo-style action RPG, and after that made Warhammer 40k Inquisitor Martyr, taking the lessons from Van Helsing and applying them with this IP. You play as an Inquisitor, carrying out the Emperor's will, being the purging fire against the hordes of chaos once again. However, the action is fun with an interesting mix of ranged and melee combat, with plenty of loot, crafting, progression and character class variety to keep you entertained. And of course, Warhammer Vermintide 2 gets top billing, since this co-op first-person shooter in the vein of Left 4 Dead is one of the best experiences out there to have with some friends. It has you playing as a party of heroes, battling against the Skaven Horde, which are a race of red men, with this sequel adding chaos once again, with an expansion DLC adding the Beastmen as well. It has all the hallmarks of a co-op one of these, only add to that gory melee combat, medieval ranged weapons and spells, and you certainly have a winner. There is permanent progression and increasing levels of difficulty, the former of which was missing from L4D and has been honed and perfected here, so if you want a great experience with friends, I would recommend that you pick this up, taking the #1 spot. As for the future of Warhammer games, I do think that it is pretty bright, with the Warhammer Skulls event just about to go live as this video is published, but we do already know that Space Marine 2 is in the works, as well as Blood Bowl 3 and sci-fi Vermintide named Warhammer 40k Dark Tide from the same developer, so there is plenty to look forward to, so we just have to wait for the 358th, 359th and so on Warhammer games to come down the line. For more co-op titles, watch these videos and I will see you after the jump.